Hello, and welcome to the Homeschooling and Loving It podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, your friend at homeschool.com and homeschool mom of 6. Join us as we keep it real and chat about the ups and downs of this amazing adventure we call the homeschool life. So grab a cup of your warm favorite and a comfy chair, and let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Homeschooling and Loving It podcast. All right, so this session, we're going to talk about something that I feel like a lot of us, homeschool moms, homeschool dads, even homeschool grandparents may be dealing with this. This time of year kind of lends itself to burnout. And so today we're going to talk about help for homeschool burnout. And I have a few points I want to share with you. I think we can all agree that when we get in that place of burnout, we feel like it's a hopeless situation. And, burnout kind of hits you. Sometimes it's gradual. Sometimes you can actually feel it coming on. And sometimes it just hits you out of the blue. Many times that's happened to me. And then I have to stop and kind of take inventory of what's going on in my life, in my homeschool, and maybe in other areas. Maybe your time, maybe your obligations. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'll get to my points here, and I hope that it really helps where you're at today. That's my heart anyway. All right, so the first thing, and this is really me sort of speaking to myself, because I have to say that I struggle with a lot of these points. So don't think I'm preaching to you. I'm preaching to myself. So the first thing I want to just kind of bring up and talk about is perfection. I think a lot of times our perception of our homeschool and what we think we need to be doing is at a level of perfection that is just not realistic. And so I want to encourage you, don't aim for perfection in your homeschool. Just take each day one moment at a time. Do the best that you can do for your children. And that's really all that's required of us as moms, as dads, just do the best that you can do. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to drop that proverbial ball in some way. Just pick up the pieces, turn around, and go back at it again. Do your best. All right, the second thing that really gets to me, so I'm going to bring it up, hopefully it will help you, is to leave your homeschool room, leave that classroom. A lot of times we are kind of constrained to the actual room where we do homeschool, and we're just there day in and day out, and it gets really old. And we start getting on each other's nerves. So sometimes just taking that time to just leave the classroom, maybe go take a field trip, maybe go visit someone, just go outside, go to a park and take your homeschool lessons with you and just have school in the park. I mean, how wonderful would that be? Enjoy nature, get some sunshine, vitamin D, change of scenery always helps, doesn't it? All right, so that kind of leads into the next point that I have. Let's change things up. So sometimes we get in this rut, and the rut can be the thing that really just makes us feel burnout. And actually, I've done this several times, especially when the kids were little. It just seems like, everything's getting old. We're getting tired of it. It's frustrating. And, so I'll just, one night we're done with school, I'll just go in, really clean the homeschool room, rearrange everything, maybe buy the kids some new pencils and notebooks, something that just breaks up the monotony. You can do that in any aspect of your homeschool program. It doesn't have to just be the room. Maybe you take the schedule, throw it out, rework your schedule. And so your daily routine is completely different. And that's exciting because it's different. And I don't know if your kids are like that, but mine always were. Something different gets their attention, kind of gets them excited, gets them motivated again. And it always worked well for us to kind of lift our spirits. It helped me too. I always feel better when the area where I'm having to work is nice and neat. Now, not everybody has that desire, but that helps me. And when I'm getting in that rut or that feeling of burnout, if I take that time and just give everything a good scrub, rearrange it, give myself a new perspective, things do change for me and it helps. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is really important, is finding a curriculum that helps lighten your workload. As parents, a lot of times we really like certain aspects of certain curriculum, but they end up being a real nightmare for parents to manage. I've been there. I have chosen those curriculum before, and it is definitely an area of concern and one that has often caused me to really feel burnout because I am spending so much time and so much effort on the curriculum and how to grade all the papers and to keep track of all the lesson plans that is the source of my frustration and my stress. And so I have found over the years, if that is the case, then you may want to consider a different curriculum. Not trying to criticize or be negative towards specific curriculum, but if they are stressing you out, they're not worth it. So I encourage you to look around. There are so many really, really wonderful homeschool resources out there, curriculum, online programs, you name it, that make your job as a homeschooling parent so much more easy and enjoyable. There's no reason why you should wake up dreading your homeschool planning or having stacks and stacks of papers to grade. It's just, there's no reason for that. And, I just want to come along beside you, put my arm around you and say, come on, we can find something that helps you lighten your workload. And so if that's the case, I have been there and I understand, and it really is pretty life-changing once you find a curriculum that helps do a lot of the heavy lifting. Just moving on, I'm trying to keep this little podcast today as short as possible because, again, I don't want to take up all your time. I want you to just find a place of rest today if you can. If you are feeling burnout, do take time to take care of yourself. That's important as well. All right, so another idea is to make a to-do list. I know sometimes we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling stressed. You might think this is kind of counterintuitive from what I'm talking to you about today, but when you're burnout or maybe you're getting close to feeling burnout, the last thing you may want is this idea of a to-do list. But I find it therapeutic. Sometimes it helps me if I write down the things that I really have to do. Now, I'm not talking about all the things that maybe I've made obligations to do and I shouldn't have, but I write down the things that I actually really need to do and keep my list very narrow. I give my kids a homeschool break, maybe let them go outside and play for a while or go do something that they want to do. And I just sit quietly and kind of review this. When I streamline this little to-do list and actually see the things that I'm really are most important on this list, I kind of begin to see that there aren't that many things. And I can streamline this list into doable chunks. Sometimes I also need to add a few things into my daily to-do list that are therapeutic. Maybe you need to take a morning walk with the kids or the dog. Maybe you need some alone time. Maybe you just need to go by yourself. Maybe you need to go visit some friends. Maybe you need to participate in a homeschool co-op. Not necessarily to do a lot of work, but maybe you just need some camaraderie. Maybe you need a friend to talk to about what's going on. Just find some things that are part of your day or your week that are just simply enjoyable. Sometimes if we're hard at work all the time and that's all that we're doing, that can be a source of burnout as well. Find those areas, those places where you can find joy and maybe laughter. Because a lot of times, if we can find that place of laughter and enjoyment, maybe it's just talking to an old friend and being silly, that really can help change your perspective. All right, I've already mentioned joining a homeschool group. That can help immensely. Just talking to someone who may be going through exactly the same thing that you're going through right now can make a huge difference. And then finally, one thing that a lot of new homeschoolers ask me about when I talk to them is, planning their day, having a schedule, doing this, doing that. And they've kind of got it in their mind that it's got to look like a typical school day. And I really want to encourage you to embrace flexibility, because homeschooling is all about flexibility. This is why we're homeschooling. We're homeschooling because we want to do it differently for one reason or another. And every single one of us that are either, obviously me speaking or you listening, we are all going to have a different reason for why we homeschool, why we're doing this. But for every one of us at the bottom of that, it's the flexibility to choose that reason to homeschool with our own opinions. So be flexible, and if something happens in your day and it breaks up the learning moments during your day, don't let that bend you out of shape. Don't let that cause you stress. Be flexible. Embrace it. Send the kids out to play until you can get everything back in order and come back in and finish the lesson. Or maybe just cancel the lesson for the day and pick up tomorrow. But again, be flexible. And I think this kind of takes us full circle right back to the first point where we were talking about that idea of perfection. I think in our world today, we've got social media is such a huge giant. It's caused a lot of us to think what we see on social media is the standard for homeschoolers, and it's not the case. That perfection that you see on Instagram or wherever, that's not normal homeschooling. That's abnormal. That's perfection, and perfection is just not what we experience on a day-to-day in normal life. And we all can attest to that. Kids get sick, mom gets headaches, maybe dad has an extra shift he has to pick up at work. All these things play into it. And you know what? If we don't have our heart set on being perfect, then we can be flexible and we can embrace these things and we can change and we can go with the flow and we can have a plan B for things, or a plan C or a plan D. But being flexible really is a huge part of, embracing life, because life can get messy. There can be chaos. It can be crazy. If you're a parent, you know a substantial amount of chaos. But anyway, that's enough for my talk. I just want to encourage each of you to let some things go in your homeschool. I know that sounds kind of strange. Yes, I was a classroom teacher for a lot of years, and let some things go were probably not words that I would have said back then. But as a homeschool mom, I know you have to let some things go. You have to not be perfect. You have to embrace flexibility. And I just want to encourage you about that today. Look forward to another chat with you again fairly soon. I do apologize. I haven't done a podcast in a while, but I've had a couple months of being sick, which again, we had to be flexible and work around that as well in our homeschool. So until next time, this is Jamie, and wishing you all the best.